Hey guys, my name is Deb Marnie and I'm from Aussie Maille, and this is our chain mail tutorial channel. Hey guys, big hi, hello, how are you? Thanks for popping in and spending some time with me. So today I'm going to do a weave tutorial for you. This one is called Captive 2-in-1 chain. It's a fairly simple tutorial put together, but it is a little fiddly. Anyway guys, let's just jump straight into it. Okay guys, I've got some sample pieces made up here for you of the Captive 2-in-1 chain. I will list the sizes for these pieces here on the side as well as down in the description. But to run through it quickly for you, our version over here, our 14 gauge AWG, which is 1.6mm diameter wire. The silver rings, the rings on the outside, they are 8mm ID, and the rings on the inside are 1/4 inch or 6.35mm. The next one is 16 gauge AWG, 1.2mm diameter wire. The bright aluminium rings, the silver, are 6mm, and the inside is 3/16 inch or 4.76mm. And the 18 gauge version, 1mm diameter wire. The ring ID for the silver rings is 5mm, and for the coloured inside rings, 5/32 inch or 3.97mm. Now, I did try a 20 gauge version of this, and I didn't have a lot of success in trying to come up with sizes that would work with the coloured rings on the inside. I'll show these to you, but I don't necessarily recommend these. So this one here is the outside rings are 4mm ID. So this is 20 gauge, 0.8mm diameter wire. The silver rings are 4mm, and the inside rings are 1/8 inch or 3.18mm. Now it creates a wonderfully dense weave that looks fabulous, but is not easy to put together, which is one of the reasons why I am not going to recommend these sizes as ones that work. It does work, but it's very tight weave. You don't have a lot of room to work, and it is hard to close the silver rings up. So I then thought I would try 4.25mm for the silver rings, and it turned out way too loose. So I then thought I would get tricky and do 21 1/28, which is 4.17. So it's in between the two. I thought for sure it would work, but it is really, really loose. It would work if you don't mind how loose it is. So this is 21 1/28 or 4.17mm for the large rings on the outside, and 1/8 inch or 3.18mm for the rings on the inside. It is quite loose. It's a little looser than I would like, but if you really need a 20 gauge version, that might be the way to go. I thought I would try changing the coloured rings, making a different size version with the coloured rings, even though the 1/8 was more to the size of the aspect ratio that was stated on Maille Artisans. So with this one here, I tried 7/64 inch, 2.78mm for the coloured rings, and the outside rings are 3.75. And again, it's much like our first one over here. Creates a wonderfully dense, tight weave, but it is not easy to put together. So if you're not frightened of fighting with your rings and working in tight spaces, then either of these ones will work for you. But as I said, I'm not going to recommend them as guaranteed definitely will work rings, because it's only going to take a slightly thicker layer of anodization on the rings to completely muck it up for us. But yeah, that's just a little bit of information on the 20 gauge. Obviously, it needs a little bit more work, but there's some ideas for you if you're dead set certain on needing a 20 gauge version. So to start this weave, you're going to need to make up two types of chain. The first chain is just a simple chain. These are your inside rings, the coloured rings in here on this weave. So that's just a 1-1-1 or a 2-in-1 chain, however you want to call that. Make that up to the length that you want it to be. And then your other chain which is made with your larger rings, is going to be a 2-1-2 chain or a 4-in-1 chain. So go ahead, guys, and make up the chain in the length that you need it to be. This will scooch up a little bit, but again, it's one of those weaves that's easy to add to, so there's no need to worry about it being the exact correct length. So go ahead and make up those 2 chains. Simple 1-1-1 in your coloured rings or your inside rings, and a 2-1-2-1 in your larger rings, the outside rings. Go ahead and do that, guys, and I'll meet you back here for the next step. Okay, so this is where it becomes a little tricky. We've got our 2 chains now to the length that we want them to be. Our inside chain, which is the simple 1-1 chain, and our outside chain, which is the 2-1-2 chain. And we want to marry these together, put them, the coloured rings, inside the silver rings. So to do that, starting with your 2 rings here at the beginning, I'm going to put the second ring in, okay, of our chain, of our centre chain. I'm going to lay that in between the 2 silver rings like that, and I'm going to hold that in place. Now, if you've got a twist tie, you may want to grab a twist tie because this is a little tricky. If you're not good at holding multiple rings in place while feeding other rings into it, you might want to grab something like a twist tie and run it through the top of those silver rings. Once you've got that coloured ring in place, give it a bit of a twist so it holds it in place for you a little bit, okay? And then what we want to do is we want to go down to not the next ring, but the following ring, and we want to put that one inside the next pair of silver rings. Okay, so that it sits in there. Make sure you don't have your center chain all twisted. We want it to sit, and I'm sorry if my thumbs are in the way, but it is a little difficult to do this one without thumbs in the way because I need to hold rings into place. We want it to sit inside there like that, like we did with the first one. And then once we've got that in place, we want to take up a silver ring. And you may want to have this first silver ring open so that you don't have to put your work down. But we want to put that coloured ring back in there, and we want to capture it in place by feeding our silver ring through those 2 outside rings, capturing it in place, and then going up and feeding it through the first pair of rings that we're holding together with the twist tie. Okay, and then come in and close that up. Okay, and once you've got that first ring in place, you can take the twist tie away if you like, and your work should look like this. So then we come down to this next ring, which sort of sits in the bottom ring there, and then the following ring after that gets captured inside the pair that follow, just like that. Okay, again, take up a silver ring, feed it through the top of the pair that you've just placed the coloured ring inside of, and then bring it up to the previous pair of silver rings in your weave and close it up. Okay, so your work should look like this. So you just do that for the length of the bracelet. I'm just going to pre-open this one. There we go. So again, we go down our work. Our next ring in the chain sits on top of the ring in the bottom. The next ring goes in between the 2 pairs there of bright rings. And then we come in with our new opened ring, and we come in over the top there like that, locking that coloured ring in place. bringing our bright aluminium up to the previous pair of large rings, going through them and closing your ring up. Okay, and then you can see if you just want to add to this, if you get to here and it's too short, you don't have enough, it's easy to add to both of the chains. We'll just add a couple of more rings here and show you that again. Okay, and then to the bottom one, we're just going to add a couple of more sets. So you can see that it's quite easy. So if you get to the end and decide it's not long enough, it's not a problem. There's no need to worry about it. Just add to both of those rings or both of those chains. Okay, so again, that's the ring that we just locked in place. The next ring sits on top of the single ring in the chain, and our next coloured ring goes inside our bright aluminium rings, so one on each side of it. And then holding that into place, we take up another silver ring. So you can see why having the silver rings open beforehand might be a little bit helpful, because you're not then coming back and fiddling around with the colour ring again. So holding that silver ring in place there, either side of our captured colour ring, we come in, we lock it in place, and then we bring it up and take it through the previous set of large silver rings. And we close it up. And that's it, guys. That's how you do captive 2-in-1 chain. So it's a little fiddly to start, especially in the smaller sizes. One of the problems with 20 gauge is it is so small and it is difficult to do because your thumbs are getting in the way. But it's a simple weave once you've got the pattern down and worked out how to hold onto your rings and put the capture in. So just to show you how I finished it off, because we've got the dangly rings here, just to show you how I finished that off, I added another set of silver rings to go on either side of our dangly chain. So I came back here and once I finished with the length I wanted, I just added another set of rings here to go around the outside of that first ring. Okay. Just like that. And then what I chose to do, I got a bright aluminium ring in the same size. So this was the 1/4 inch. I got a bright aluminium in the 1/4 inch. I don't have any here with me right now, so I'll just use the coloured rings. But I just got 2 of those and I went either side of my coloured ring like that. Okay, so this is in the 1/4 inch, so we're going down a little bit. And then to that, I would add whatever I'm using for clasp attachment. So I'll just use another one of my coloured rings, but you could use a smaller ring if you wanted to. I would put that through there, and then I would add my clasp to that and close that up. And I would finish the other end the same, except you would just have the ring for the clasp to close onto. So if you're finishing it up like that, you will want to make sure that your last ring is the same as your first ring in the positioning, in that it's standing this way, not lying down flat. But yeah, there you go, guys. That's it. Alright guys, well that's it. That is the video tutorial for today. I hope you enjoyed the video and that you found it useful. If you did find it useful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up here on YouTube. Share the video if you like. Leave any comments or questions you may have down below the video in the comments section. While you're here, guys, if you're not a subscriber, you might consider doing that for us. Check out some of the other content. We've got a few hundred videos here for you to wade through. I'm sure you'll find something that you like. And guys, last but certainly not least, don't forget to give our shop link up there in the corner a little bit of love and attention. That's where we sell all the bits and bobs and thingamajigs you're going to need to make up this weave and many of the others that we show here. Alright guys, thanks once again for popping in and spending some time with me. I hope to catch up with you again sometime in the very near future. Bye.